Today, we're talking about the way that this time in our life, this particular moment in midlife, is not a crisis, but the way that we are here to develop our soul path. So, if you're here, I want to speak to why midlife can be so confusing, and I'm going to map you through the seasons that midlife is designed to develop within us. And I've not shared this level of detail before, but I want to walk you through it. And so before I get there, let's talk a little bit about how we understand midlife now. Right now, when we think about midlife, I'm basically saying it starts about the time you enter 40, and it's going to keep working with you until your second Saturn return at the end of your 50s. So let me take a drink of water because I know I'm talking fast. I'll settle down. So what I most want to have you understand is that during this time, it feels like life can be confusing, hard. You wonder why your life doesn't fit anymore. You feel like everything that you've developed until this time is there, and it's all, as I had someone describe, like knotted up necklaces that you're trying to untie to figure out what to do with. I've had it explained by somebody who's in her middle to second third of her 40s, and she feels like somebody picked me up and dropped me in the middle of a forest, and somehow I'm supposed to find my way back out. Hi, Com. I see you there. Please introduce yourself, and if you have questions about this, let me know. I'm paying attention to the live chat. I very much want to say, I get you. I've lived through this. It was really unpleasant. And no matter what I could do in terms of spiritual growth, intuitive growth, personal growth, business growth, nothing seemed to click in the way that I wanted it to. On top of that, I was dealing with hormones. I was dealing with kids getting ready for college or leaving to college. I was in a difficult relationship. Everything seems to just come into play at that time. And for you, if you have a business and you feel like I need to blow it up, I don't understand why things aren't working. Used to work really well. Now nothing is really connecting like I wanted it to. My income has decreased. My clients don't fit me. I don't like them anymore. There's all kinds of things that come up in your business. In your life and in your relationships, you're probably going to see something similar playing out. In your health, you may be dealing with health issues. I don't know any woman who hasn't had to deal with some sort of health issue as a feature of her changing hormones. And during this time, you kind of feel like I should have things together by now because it worked before and now nothing feels right. And I never had a good answer. And because of the work that I do with the women that I do, I work with intuitives. I work with very sophisticated spiritual women. I work with business women. I work with women who have a complex and interesting path that they're walking in terms of the work they want to deliver to the world. It's never a simple, hey, I'm a businesswoman. No, I'm a businesswoman who understands all of these other elements, who's trying to find a way to feel like she's in integrity and live her life. And my path has always been, how can I support you, one, in business, but two, in your life? Because that makes a difference. When you feel good in your life, everything feels good. So I have historically used human design, foundational. Now I'm bringing in astrology. And you don't have to understand this. This is what's important for me to do, to see larger patterns at play. And now that I can see this, I can lay out for you sort of a seasonal understanding of midlife in a way that's incredibly empowering. It gives you an orientation about your life that lets you make meaning of where you are, understand why it's happening, and be prepared for what's coming next. Because in the middle of the chaos or the difficulties or the not enough clarity moment, there is a way to find clarity and orientation and recognize that this moment is preparing you for this moment. And when you know that, it is so much more calming. It gives you a different sense of orientation in your life, and you understand what you need to be calling on within you. Okay, so I'm going to explain it in this simple way. Oh, my cat decided to come join. Never does. We're just going to allow her to be here. Um, what I want you to understand is that our life is structured by our soul. Let's simplistically say it that way. And in astrology, you can identify this, but for the most part, think about it this way. For the period of time from when you're born until about 40, and this is not purist, but until you're about 40, your soul is helping you develop the qualities that your soul is already great at. So everything you do in business and your life, and I have no idea why she's here. Okay, this is a real live, guys. Um, so the reason your soul is helping you is to give you the confidence in your life that you've got it together. You develop all the qualities and capabilities and experiences that your soul is like rock on. It's had multiple lifetimes. It's excellent at this. It's bringing those gifts into this life with you. It wanted to give you this experience so that you could feel confident, capable, experienced. You have a body of knowledge and an awareness of self that feels strong. Now, what happens is at about 40, the next edition starts to kick in full form. And that next edition is your soul saying, okay, you got that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to develop qualities that I want to develop in this lifetime with you. They're going to be really different than what we've been doing over there. In fact, not only are they really different, they're going to be the opposite of what we've been doing. So I want you to start to do this. So live your life from this angle. And everything from our 40s on through our second Saturn return, late 50s, is about developing those qualities. And so everything that we encounter in our 40s is designed to help you move that direction. It's that simple. And when you don't know that that's what's happening, the way that we're wired as humans, we judge, we self-judge, we worry we've gotten it wrong. We feel guilt and shame about where we're at. We think we weren't on our right path. It's all of these things. But that's not really what's going on. Your soul's like, we built these things for a reason. And so what I'm going to try to do here, because I've not done it on Substack, is screen share with you a little bit of seeing the seasons across the spectrum of time. So that depending on where you're at, you can actually see how they are developmental. What I want you to take away from this is that moving through a developmental passage as midlife, so when we think about midlife as a developmental passage rather than just life, there's a way to feel more empowered inside of it. There's a way to be able to lean into your strengths. And when you know and you can see the connections, and I'm pretty sure that all the women who understand soul and intuition, they will. You'll put the pieces together really fast. The orientation happens quickly. The shifts happen with more ease. Yes, you've got to retrain your system a little bit, your habits, your nervous system a little bit, because you drew on a different area of your skills and self-identity. And now you have to draw from a different place that you feel a little more uncomfortable with, but it's the place that you are being given help to move towards. Okay, so let me show you exactly what I mean. Let me see if I can pull that up here. Okay, this one. I'm going to pull this up. So what you should see is these are the transits that I'm kind of mapping. And then I'm explaining this in terms of different seasons. And so we begin in my little storyline with your first Saturn return, which is at the end of your 20s, which is where you choose what you want to be taken seriously for. And basically from that point forward, your 30s are developmental. And then I've included these because I've been working with some women at this particular time so that you can understand what's happening when your career starts to shift a little bit and not feel good, where you reset a little bit around this time. But what's most important that I want to speak to is when you hit your 40s, you hit a season where everything feels like it's dissolving. You basically have the opportunity to dissolve the hard world that you built, and now you need to build a new map for your life. And so if you're thinking of yourself in your early 40s, you definitely feel this dissolving feeling where your capacity has outgrown the container. You feel more restless. It's not really a crisis, although people like to call it a crisis. It's not, but it can feel that way. And then as you head into your mid 40s, I call it, you've got a little bit more going on with adapting. Saturn is going to come in and say, hey, you need to figure out what parts of you've been leaving out of the game. And generally, if you're in your mid 40s, you're like, here's where I sold myself out. If you're a woman with kids, that shows up all the time. I gave myself away for all of my family. Now, who am I? That's part of what's going on in this season. And then I really look at this like end of 40s as an opportunity to practice, to give it a little bit of traction, what you've already figured out in the first half of your 40s. And so this time is really getting sharper about who you are and recognizing that you can move in life from your North Node, from your soul's path, soul growth areas. And then you hit your 49 to 51 age and you're dealing with your Chiron wound. And this is where you will, if you have not been doing some healing work, you will be asked to see the ways that you have been wounded as power, as authority, as the strength that you are. And moving into this, if you've done the work in these areas, is a lot less painful than if you haven't. Because right here, the ways that you have not owned yourself become far more pronounced. And after you've moved past your Chiron return, you start getting into this time in your early and mid 50s where everything steadies out. And that time feels really, really good because if you dealt with your wound, you suddenly realize there's just nothing else in life that is that scary. Like, I'll just do it. Because if you had a hard Chiron return, I had a hard Chiron return. In fact, it extended longer because I didn't deal with it. And I didn't realize that I needed to be operating from my North Node. I wasn't using my voice in the correct way. I was leaning into service. So these are two separate poles. And it took me longer to learn. And so I needed more time to steady out in my 50s, my early to mid 50s. But I can tell you that it is true. You do reach a stage where after having walked the path that you had to walk, there just isn't a fear that's going to stop you. It's much easier to face your life and face the fears that once pretty much molded the choices you made. And then after that, you begin to really, really work on preparing and moving into your second Saturn return. And your second Saturn return does come, like you will have had time to get clearer about soul direction. You will feel a different kind of freedom. You begin to organize your spiritual depth with a lot less doubting. It's much stronger. I have found that my intuition has been increasing significantly. And then you start to hit your second Saturn return. And your second Saturn return says, okay, let's get rid of everything that is not you and start building in the pieces that you've just put together in the last few years. Because what you're doing is you're setting yourself up for the next 30 years. Knowing all of this takes everything about what you understand about midlife and gives it purpose and meaning. Okay? So I'm going to go and see if I can stop screen share. No. Let's see if I can do this. There we go. All right, let's stop sharing. So this is what I most want you to understand. This is a season. The season you're in feels uncomfortable, unpleasant, not directed, You might be enjoying your life immensely and still feel unfulfilled, like you're lacking meaning. You're missing a piece of life that you figured would be sorted by now. And so the question I want to ask you is, from where you're standing, do you feel like you know where you're heading? Do you feel like you know where you want to be in 3 to 5 years? Because understanding where you are in the season will help you get there with greater ease. So think back 3 to 5 years. And when you thought about that, did you think about where you are now that it would feel like this? A lot of people I speak to don't. They have business goals, but they never think about, what is the quality of my life? How do I want it to feel? How do I want to live? Where do I want to be living from? Some of them already have this sorted, but then mixing and understanding how I'm going to apply it in business, how I'm going to apply it in my family, how I'm going to apply it in myself, how am I going to live past my fears? It feels a little harder. But if you recognize you're on a growth path, then the framework changes, your orientation changes. You have a map to where you're going, and you can relax into what is being asked of you to grow at that time. And when you know that you're growing your North Node skills, you can begin practicing them. So what we're going to do is tomorrow, I'm going to come back with another live, which is going to be recorded and available to you. We're going to come back and talk about your North Node. I want to explain your North Node, how to understand what it is, how to understand this dichotomy between your South Node and your North Node, and understand how knowing it and working from it is a game changer. All right. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you tomorrow.